Hey everybody, welcome to the show. Holy cow, it's Wednesday already. Why, yes, it is. Cloudy, slight chance of rain today. High of 67. We've got Heroes Breakfast this Friday, just 2 days away. If you are a veteran, we'd love for you to swing by as we broadcast live from Scramblers, our Friday Road Show, sponsored by Affordable Towing. And then every so often we do a Heroes Breakfast along with some of our partners. Scramblers, of course, Delta Roofing, Serenity Honors, Air Service, Heating, Cooling, Plumbing, Electrical, and buy lunch, or breakfast rather, for veterans. So that will be specifically this Friday between 6A and 9A at Scramblers. And I believe Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty, will be joining us. She likes to stop by when she has a chance, and it's a great opportunity if you have any questions for her about home buying or home selling. Utilize that. It's one of the reasons she comes out, to make herself available, and she usually gets there around 8 o'clock, and that'll give you a little time before or after. You know, she's busy, so she's not hanging around the entire time for no reason. But if you've got any questions you might have about, again, buying or selling a home, any tips or whatever it might be, it's a great opportunity for you to utilize her services in that way and her expertise. And she's just a great person to know, even outside of that. So that's Emily Johnson, House Theory Realty. John Solomon and Nick Givas in Just the News wrote up it's not really a timeline, but it's what I call a reminder. And it is regarding the deep state, if you will, these former intelligence and current intelligence agencies folks, that it's become clear over the past week and a half, deliberately and knowingly developed and produced a disinformation campaign in order to alter the outcome of the Biden-Trump election, and successfully so. This was the revelation. I mean, anyone who's observing this objectively recognized what was going on. But now you've got the guy who, the former director of the CIA, during testimony admitting, yes, it was Blinken, who at the time was with the Biden campaign, and amazingly enough, he has a job in the administration. I wonder how that happened. And it was done, try to get Trump out of the White House. So you've got one of the architects of the disinformation campaign admitting it during testimony. What John Solomon does is point out this is not the first time. And it's not necessarily secret. We just forget these things. And in fact, all the way back to 2016, you had the ex-CIA boss intervening in elections. Now, these are just the few that we know about, of course. You wonder, how long has this been going on? So I want to share that piece with you. Of course, much more. We're going to have Jay Ashcroft with us a little bit after 8:30 this morning. Just a notation for you. Right now, Jason Rima with the latest news update. Asa Hutchinson, what an inspiration. My platform is just because I don't like Trump. Okay. Let's not forget also, he's very adamant about letting parents lure their kids into irreversible sex change operations. That's what he puts under the column of parental rights. I suspect he's going to get a huge chunk of the active Republican voter base there. You think he knows what party he's running? I don't know. It seems to be a little bit of confusion there. What did you people in Arkansas do to that guy? First alert forecast, cloudy, slight chance of rain. High of 67 for the day. Rain likely tonight, 50. Showers and storms tomorrow with a high of 59. Partly sunny, 67 on Friday. Streaming live, ksgf.com, the app. The app, by the way, is back in the Apple Marketplace. It had disappeared. All of our, I don't know what happened. All of our apps had disappeared. I think it was a payment thing on our end. It wasn't so any sort of censorship deal. So it was company-wide. But those are back in the Apple App Store. If you want to download the app, it's awesome. You can listen to the show. You can listen to past shows. You can just click a button to send a text message to the American Transmissions talk and text line. You can hit the Facebook Live feed. That's an easy way to do it. That Facebook Live feed, the video along with the audio, is sponsored by Springfield Wraps, who designed our studio, which you can see in the feed as well. At least, some of the studio. Get a sense of what an incredible job they do. Here's a story about a U.S. long jumper, Tara Davis Woodhull. She's been suspended for a month and stripped of her indoor national title because she tested positive for THC. So we live in a country Whereas a woman, if you have THC in your system, I guess that's supposed to be some sort of advantage. I don't know, for running. You can be stripped of your title. Now, if you have like a disproportionate amount of testosterone because you're actually a man, that's cool. You can do that. You can be a man. You just can't have THC in your system. I'm telling you, we are in the backslide. We peaked. We peaked. I don't know when. It was sometime in the 1900s. I'd say we peaked. People would argue as to whether it was probably sometime between World War II and the end of the century. And sometimes it's not an exact point. It's not a day. It's not a month. It's not even a year. But you just look at the level of stupidity that we accept. Stupidity's always it's existed. It's just the way that an enlightened society deals with stupidity is, you're like, oh, okay, all right, no. And then you move on. You don't embrace it and highlight it as some sort of virtue. But that's what we do now. We've got a number of different stories that's going to highlight that today. Every day. All the way up to the presidency. You know, we've got audio. Karine Jean-Pierre was asked, which it's insane this question's even being asked. Will Biden actually serve out his full term if he's elected? Now, the reason this question is asked is obvious because everyone knows that he's old and senile. And so it is considered very unlikely that should he get reelected president, that he's even going to be able to serve. Whether it's because he's dead or just brain dead. She couldn't answer the question. Now, if you're hiring someone in the regular private sector, and it is a job that's a 4-year contract, and they're like, oh, by the way, I don't know if I'm going to serve it out. And in fact, I'm not even going to tell you how long I'll serve it out. And you're like, well, no, but this is a 4-year job. That's the deal. That would sort of be a disqualifier, wouldn't it? There are very few requirements within the job description of President of the United States. There's some age stuff, U.S. citizenry stuff, and then it's 4 years. It's like, I don't know whether or not. We don't ask such an absurd question. Just the news. Before Biden laptop letter, ex-CIA boss intervened on Russian collusion in 2016 and Benghazi of 2012. When you start to look at this as it's laid out in Just the News, John Solomon and Nick Givas working on this piece together, this has happened numerous elections in a row. Just a week after then CIA Director John Brennan warned President Barack Obama that Hillary Clinton's campaign was stirring up a fake Russia scandal in order to harm Donald Trump, the agency's former acting chief became one of the first high-profile intelligence community figures to go out and claim that the 2016 Republican nominee was a possible agent of Vladimir Putin. There's about a 2-week window, I'm going to interject here, that clearly there were conversations that took place. I would love to be privy to those conversations, because what we know based off of notes released from this, I believe it was in the Oval Office, this meeting in the Oval Office, there was a period in time in which the intelligence community, as is laid out here, specifically John Brennan, during the Hillary Clinton-Donald Trump campaign, they recognized that the Hillary Clinton campaign was colluding with foreign nationals in order to create a fake Russia collusion story. And so the way that all of this, the very first on-record meeting in which this was brought up, it was bringing it up as in, hey, we've got one of the two candidates here, and by the way, it's our gal, who is colluding with foreigners in order to try to alter the outcome of the election, to create a fake disinformation campaign about Donald Trump. So we all need to be aware of this. This is not a good thing. It went from that to just 2 weeks later, the very people who were warning Obama about it were leading the charge on it. Somewhere at some point they decided, hey, wait a minute, maybe this isn't a bad idea. Maybe Hillary Clinton's onto something here. We don't want this guy in here. He's not beholden to anyone. Wall Street doesn't own him. China doesn't own him. This guy doesn't really seem to care about reputation and all of the tools that we use as leverage over presidents are irrelevant when it comes to this Trump guy. So we can't control it. There are no strings. So at some point during that 2-week period, the people within the intelligence community did a complete 180-degree turn from, we have a problem here. Hillary Clinton's colluding with foreigners in order to try and alter the outcome of the election by creating this fake Russia collusion story to, hey, let's help. This sounds like a good idea. In August of 2016, in an op-ed in the New York Times, Michael Morell cited his CIA experience to make the Trump allegation, and he also endorsed Clinton for president. Quote, in the intelligence business, we would say that Mr. Putin had recruited Mr. Trump as an unwitting agent of the Russian Federation. So you go from the revelation within the Obama administration intelligence community that Hillary Clinton's doing this to they're laying the red carpet out for her to utilize them and these letters to the editor and so forth to bolster her false claim, her disinformation campaign. The Clinton campaign was synced with the revelation immediately, putting out an attack ad the same day, sounding similar themes that Trump was unfit to be president, then following with a letter from 50 experts claiming it. Now, you think, oh, no, yeah, the 51 CIA, the Hunter laptop. No. This is back in 2016. A letter signed by 50 experts from the intelligence community talking about how Trump was unfit to be president. It's magic. This must be a magic number for the Democrats and the deep state. 50 names on a letter. Months later, Morell's strike was still being peddled by Democrats' longtime Clinton-Obama strategist Jennifer Palmieri. She called it jaw-dropping to further a Russian collusion narrative that ultimately would be rejected by, of course, Special Counsel Robert Mueller and multiple congressional probes. Morell's early effort to push the Trump-Russia agent theory is now getting fresh scrutiny after revelations reported by Just the News last week that he also organized an open letter in October of 2020, falsely portraying the Hunter Biden laptop as suspected Russian disinformation after receiving a call from longtime Joe Biden advisor and current Secretary of State Antony Blinken. The then Director of National Intelligence contemporaneously denied the laptop was Russian disinformation, and the FBI has since authenticated the laptop. Around the time the Morell pushed letter surfaced in fall of 2020, a former FBI intelligence chief by the name of Kevin Brock wrote a powerful column in the Hill newspaper alleging that spies were trying to influence the election, but they weren't Russian or Chinese or Iranian, but American spies. He called the letter by the 50 so-called experts a clear effort by U.S. intel professionals to sway the election with their credentials, even though there were no facts to back it up. Brock wrote in the piece for The Hill at the time, why was a letter written this time? To help Joe Biden politically? And nothing more. The signers now probably wish they had waited a few additional days before releasing their letters, since facts have emerged surrounding the laptop that makes their professional suspicions look silly. His letter was in response to the 2020 disinformation campaign letter, not the 2016. Morale, for his part, has now confessed his efforts to organize the letter, saying it was triggered by Blinken. The letter's release was coordinated by the Biden campaign, and his intent was as Brock suspected. Morale testified to Congress, quote, "I wanted him to win the election." We're going to take a break. More on this. Just absolute vile. I know so many of you know this. The Russian disinformation is totally that's not where the problem has been all along. The disinformation campaigns have been coming from our government. The efforts to interfere with American elections have come from our own government. This is not speculation. All of this is admitted, confessed fact. Coming up this Saturday is the Christian County Republican Central Committee Lincoln Days. If you've not been to one of these, it's a good opportunity to, well, just experience something that you have not in the past experienced, but at the same time, meet with some elected officials, many of which are not necessarily the person you're going to run into at breakfast. You know, your local state rep, oftentimes that's not uncommon, but when you're talking about folks like Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft, Attorney General Andrew Bailey, these are not individuals that you're probably just going to run into. And this is an opportunity to be around those folks and meet with them, talk with them if you'd like. The event Saturday will have Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft. We're actually going to have him on the show after 8:30 this morning. Andrew Bailey, Attorney General, Mike Moon, Darren Chappell, Bob Titus, Jamie Gregg, Brad Hudson. These are state reps, if you don't recognize any of the names. And it is, there's dinner and drinks if you want and so forth and socializing, and you'll hear from some of these folks. It's $50 a person. Congressman Burleson has purchased a table. He's going to be there. And so he's purchased a table and asked us if we would give away seats at the table. So we are going to, over the next couple of days, give you the opportunity to win a pair of tickets. We're going to do 5 pairs so that you can bring somebody with you if you'd like. And we're going to do that in a number of different ways. And to tell us about that is Sarah Myers.
Hey, that's me. Yes, so we are actually going to have our Friday producer, Houston. He's going to be out on the road a couple times, both today and tomorrow. So make sure to listen during the 8 a.m. hour because Huey will be on the road. He'll call in. He'll give us a location of where he's at, and it's first come, first serve. And I believe he's giving away 1 pass today and 1 pass tomorrow. Yeah. And we are also doing a text as well today. So if you text the word Lincoln to the KSGF talk and text line 417-447-5743, you'll be entered for a chance to win a pair as well, and we'll be drawing that at 8:30 today. So there you go.
You may ask, well, why is it that we do not tell you the location now? Because today and tomorrow will be 1 pair, and what we don't want is to tell you, and then Houston show up and there's 20 people there, and he's got to, what do I do with this one? Who was here first? And then there's a fist fight, maybe a knife fight, something along. I know, just
then
kidding.
We got to
report
the news.
I know, we got that, and then we're accused of stirring hate as right wingers and all that stuff. But no, so it will be something that when he's out there, when he gets to the location today, what time did you say around?
In the 8 o'clock hour.
Okay, in the 8 o'clock hour, and we'll say, all right, here's where he is. The first person to get to him will get those. Now, we do ask that you plan on actually going because, there's only 10 seats at the table, and it's $50 a piece. And the whole point, Congressman Burleson wanted to encourage folks that might not otherwise attend one of these to do so. And at no cost. Well, cost to him, he purchased them. But so we want to make sure that they do get utilized. And then, as Sarah mentioned, I know some of you're at work or you can't, maybe you're not in the Springfield area, particularly given that this is Christian County, Lincoln days. And so maybe you are, south of Springfield and you're not able to make it up here in order to get it with it. So that's why we have the texting also. And as she mentioned, you could just text Lincoln to the American Transmissions Talk and Text line 447-KSGF for your chance to win. When will we contact the winners for that?
For the texting?
Yeah.
I'll do it today around 8:30.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. PM? Oh,
no, AM.
Oh, okay. All
yeah,
right.
I'm getting it done and over with.
All right.
I ain't going to let anybody set in suspense.
Well, there you go. So there you have it. All right, I want to continue on and give just a brief bullet point timeline and finish up this story that is in Just the News, noting that intelligence officials that we know of, since 2012, have been operating disinformation campaigns in order to try to steer the outcome of our presidential elections. Here's a traffic update. I am Nick Reed. First Alert forecast sponsored by Navant. Employee benefits that work. Slight chance of rain today, high of 67. Rain tonight, 50. Showers, storms tomorrow, 59. Partly sunny on Friday with a high of 67. I'm going to pick up part of the way through this timeline that highlights information that's not secret. This isn't brand newly discovered information, but it brings it together to illustrate how folks within the deep state intelligence community since 2012 that we know of have been operating disinformation campaigns in order to alter the outcome of the elections, presidentially speaking, in the manner that they want. Morell, a 33-year veteran of the CIA who retired shortly after Brennan took over in 2013, has now stirred controversies in 3 straight elections that we know of, with actions that relied in part on his intelligence community ties. In September of 2012, as Obama was seeking re-election in a close race against Republican Mitt Romney, Morell is the individual who edited intelligence talking points to delete references to al-Qaeda's role in the deadly attack on the U.S. compound in Benghazi. The edits ended up sending National Security Advisor Susan Rice onto the Sunday talk shows to make false insinuations that an anti-Muslim video spurred the attack on Benghazi, when in fact the CIA knew it was an al-Qaeda-related arm that had instigated it. Republicans accused the former CIA chief of a cover-up. Morell defended his actions in testimony 2 years later, insisting his edits were not designed to be a disinformation campaign altering the outcome of a presidential election, but instead were well-meaning actions taken in the heat of a dramatic intelligence drama. Morell testified, quote, "These allegations accuse me of taking these actions for the political benefit of President Obama and then Secretary of State Clinton. These allegations are false." But by that time, the talking points had become a major controversy in the 2020 election. In 2016, Morell's insertion into the Russian collusion narrative came as Brennan, his successor, was warning Obama that the Clinton campaign was crafting the disinformation campaign. In declassified notes, Brennan recounted how during a July 28, 2016 meeting with Obama, he relayed a warning that there was intelligence that Clinton was trying to conjure up a Trump-Russia scandal to distract from Clinton's email controversies. The Clinton campaign had helped fund the Steele dossier, it would be later revealed. Brennan notes reads, quote, "We're getting additional insight into Russian activities from redacted. Cite alleged approval by Hillary Clinton of a proposal from one of her foreign policy advisors to vilify Donald Trump by stirring up a scandal, claiming interference by the Russian security services," end quote. 2 months later, Brennan's CIA would send a similar warning to the FBI, which was investigating Russian collusion based in part on the now discredited Steele dossier. CIA is aware of an intercept discussing U.S. presidential candidate Hillary Clinton's approval of a plan concerning U.S. presidential candidate Donald Trump and Russian hackers hampering U.S. elections as a means of distracting the public from her use of a private email server, the agency wrote in a teletype to the Bureau. Brennan's warning to Obama was significant because just 4 days earlier, the Clinton campaign, where current Biden National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan served at the time as a security advisor, put out a statement claiming Russia hacked the Democrat Party's document to help Trump. Mueller's probe found no Trump or his team played, or no evidence rather, that Trump or his team played a role in the hack. By late October, Sullivan himself was directly involved in spreading misinformation regarding Russian collusion allegations, releasing a claim, later debunked, that Russia was communicating secretly with Trump through a bank server in Moscow. The 2020 intervention followed a similar connectivity between a presidential campaign and Morell. Last week, Jordan, that being Jim Jordan, and House Intelligence Committee Chair Mike Turner disclosed that Morell admitted in testimony that he became involved in organizing the letter in October of 2020 at the instigation of then Biden campaign advisor and now Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, which I don't think it takes a brainiac to figure out how he got that job. Morell confessed he was trying to influence the 2020 election in favor of Biden, according to a letter the two House chairmen sent to Blinken demanding answers. So what this lays out, and again, this is public information. This is not anonymous sources saying. This isn't a person familiar with the situation claiming. This is all based off of documented evidence, writing in their own hand and confessions by many of the conspirators. That you had the falsifying of intelligence in 2012 in order to help Obama beat Romney. You had a 2016 letter from 50 individuals from the intelligence community, all full well knowing that there was absolutely no Russian collusion. They knew ahead of time that it was Hillary Clinton's campaign that was creating the disinformation campaign. They decided to help give it credibility by writing a letter in 2016 about how dangerous it would be for Donald Trump to become president, and they tried to make it appear as if they weren't pushing for Hillary Clinton a little too much on the nose by noting in the end of their letter that, I mean, we don't all think Hillary is necessarily going to be the greatest president in the world, but the one thing we all know is that Trump will destroy the planet. And by destroy the planet, they mean stop the invasion of Ukraine, stop North Korea from his nuclear ambitions, destroy ISIS. The Abraham Peace Accords. That was their brilliant analysis. And then from 2016 to 2020, yet another letter that once again they knew was false and disinformation, this time falsely claiming that the Hunter laptop story was Russian disinformation, and as Morell admitted just weeks ago in congressional testimony, for the purposes of altering the outcome of the election, interfering to the point that Biden would win, and they succeeded. This is where we are in the country, and this is, I think, why so many people, I know why so many people have said, look, corruption is one. And that's because all this information is known. It's out there. It got a couple of problems here. One, it isn't known by the masses. The vast majority of people do not know about all that acknowledged and confessed with evidence interference. And that's because the media won't report on it. Or if for whatever reason they do, they dismiss it as irrelevant. In addition to that, there is a portion of the Democrat voting base that they don't care because they too are corrupt. And it's simply about power and nothing else. No ethics, no morality. It's not even about whether or not the country improves. I mean, I think clearly we've seen by Biden's own reelection campaign video launch, he doesn't list a single accomplishment. Not one. He doesn't say, hey, look what I did. Here's how things are better. Remember before I took office and we were here and now we're here? Nothing. When you have a significant portion of the voting population that does not care, that you have people within the intelligence community, former and current, that we know for a fact launch disinformation campaigns against the American citizens in order to alter outcome of presidential elections. And in addition to that, they support an individual that they know has made things worse in the country. I don't know what you do to say to those people. You could almost understand it. Almost understand it. The acceptance of the corruption if the person that they were supporting made things so much better. You know, I don't like the way, but ends justify the means. Man, before the economy was just so horrible, everything, there was war in the world and everything, but this guy came in and brought everyone together, total unity, riots stopped, crime plummeted, the border got secure, peace in the Middle East came out because but the opposite happened. Things are worse across the board. I suppose it is the same frustration that family members have whenever a loved one gets sucked into a cult, that clearly the cult leader is a scam artist, and their lives are clearly not better but worse, but in their minds, that's the decision they made, and there's no other way to go. And what do? Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. A1 Custom Car Care, you guys have an announcement coming up Saturday on your show, is that right?
We do. That's all I got.
That's all you got. All right. So an announcement regarding A1 Custom Car. It's a positive announcement. Of course, Dustin Atwood and Sarah co-host the radio show, A1 Custom Car Care, on Saturday mornings at 10 right here on Springfield's Talk 104.1. And if you miss any of it, you can go back and listen to past shows and send in questions that you may have on the American Transmissions Talk and Text line 447-KSGF. It's a great show, and it's not all what you call gearhead stuff. While there is some of that, there's different things I think are you guys going to talk about the AM radio thing?
Yeah, we talked about that last week or the week before.
Yeah, if you're not aware of what's going on with that, I've heard, I think, Glenn Beck talk about it, and Sean Hannity, he's got a PSA running on the station, and this is a number of car companies, and I think Ford may be one of them, they are looking at removing AM radios from cars. And AM radio is, it is a form of communication that is less disrupted by certain occurrences that might be disruptive to FM signals, even atmospheric. And so it to some degree, You see these movies where it's the end of the zombie apocalypse take over, and what is it that people try to do when they're isolated, they're alone? They always go to a radio, right? They're going to a radio and they're trying to pick up some sort of signal, and inevitably, they will find that there's a signal coming from somewhere, and they're kind of sending these coded messages, and that's what many people can see AM radio as being in the case of some sort of horrific emergency, a place that sort of communication. And AM signals, they reach much further. Obstacles like mountains don't have the same impact that they do on FM signals, and so they're more reliable. And I don't know, honestly, the background on the reason for this. Many people believe it is the woke corporation, the ESG, marching on as a way to diminish talk radio. Because while those of you here, you listen to this, you're like, but talk radio's on FM. It's not that way everywhere. I mean, there are large markets in this country where the most listened to stations are AM stations, and they're talk radio. And so the idea, many people believe, is, they're slowly but surely, newspapers, the left have taken over. Television stations are trying. We see what's going on with Fox News and the apparent elimination of those that are not part of the elite. And talk radio has just been this very, very, very annoying, existent thing that they just cannot get rid of. And so some people believe that that's what's going on. I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me, but I just don't know. I will say this. I don't really understand, and it may be something that's been explained, but I can't off the top of my head understand what the advantage to eliminating AM radio would be. Yeah, you can argue that, well, not that many people use it. I don't know the statistics. Clearly, like I said, in some of the largest markets in this country, there are millions of people that listen to AM radio because of talk radio. Why get rid of it? It's not like it's this requires this giant piece of equipment that takes up room. I mean, you look at every vehicle in one form or another has devices that receive some sort of signal, whether it's over the air or it's XM or Sirius or whatever. And so the electronic devices already exist. So it's not like you're saving room or anything by eliminating whatever component allows it to also grab the AM signal. So anyway, point being is that when it comes to the show on Saturdays that Dustin and Sarah do, A1 Custom Car Care, it's not just about, well, I got a gasket that's doing that and so forth. There's all sorts of other things that they talk about that normal people that don't even know what a gasket is can relate to and learn from. So I definitely recommend you listen to that. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. American Transmissions Talk a text line message. I'm a driver for a small local company. I use AM radio on a daily basis because some places don't get FM radio. And we actually also broadcast on 1260 AM, so we do utilize an AM signal. But they are, I was talking earlier, the show on Saturdays with Dustin Atwood and Sarah, the A1 Custom Car Care show. They are going to talk about the reasons that are given for this push to eliminate AM radio from vehicles, and of course, there's a push, as you can imagine, back against doing so, and so they'll talk a little bit about that on Saturday's show. Coming up in the 8 o'clock hour, just a little preview for you. Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft's going to join us. He will be at Christian County Lincoln Days, which you can win tickets to by texting the word Lincoln to 447-KSGF. News in 60 seconds. If you're not seeing the new Aller Building Company development, well, there's the completed development in Ozark. That's a Woodcrest development. And then there's Woodvale, which is Golden and Weaver, that new subdivision in Springfield. And these are for those of you who are looking to get a new home for whatever reason it may be, but you don't want to do any sort of remodeling. You want it to be brand new from the moment you walk in, exactly how you want it. When I say brand new, I don't mean you walk in and everything's blank slate. You go to their showroom floor and you very easily and conveniently pick out the doorknobs and the countertops and the fixtures, the color schemes. You do all of that from their showroom floor, and then when you walk into the home on day one, it's exactly the way you want it. That's Aller Building Company, OLLER. Karine Jean-Pierre yesterday was asked a question that just tells you where we are in this country. And we are in unprecedented times. By that I mean how you can have a guy that is running for re-election. It is assumed he will get the nomination, despite the fact that 70% of them, even a majority of Democrats, say they don't want him to run again. But then when they do polling and they throw in alternatives like Marianne Williamson and RFK Jr., he gets like 66% of the vote. So you have a significant number of Democrat voters who say they don't even want him to run again. It's like, oh, okay, well, here are a couple other options. No. It's like, what the hell? I don't understand how you people think. Is it the devil you know? Is that what it is? Outside of honest people, you don't get any real acknowledgement of what we all know, and that is that Joe Biden, it's not just his age, it's his cognitive disability. I mean, we all know it. We all also know that everyone pretends like it's not a problem. Right? On the major news networks, it's just never really addressed. And it's especially not addressed in a manner that it should be. I mean, we're talking about, it's not an incidental thing. This isn't a conversation about, whether or not he's got bladder control issues, right? Like, okay, well, yeah, that's not exactly the greatest thing for a person in the world to have, but it's not ultimately going to affect the presidency. So, yeah. We're talking about the ability to think. We're talking about the ability to know where you are. We're talking about the ability to go out and say things without revealing information that is not to be revealed. I still firmly believe just a stark example of this is when Biden was in Poland talking to our troops, and he said, when you guys are there in Ukraine, and of course they're, oh, no, that's not what he meant. That's not what he meant. And lo and behold, we find out we got troops in Ukraine. I think that was an instance where he forgot he wasn't supposed to talk about that was a secret being held from the American people. It's not incidental. It has become such a, facing re-election, there's a recognition that for a lot of people, when they poll people, this is an issue for them. A majority of people, even a majority of Democrats polled, have admitted, yeah, he's not all there. Now, the media, however, they're not going to address it in that manner. Instead, they couch it as an age issue. They're not going to ask questions about his cognitive ability. They're not going to say, hey, is the president, what happens when he starts losing it? And, so instead they're, he's old. They're asking, well, does he even plan on serving the whole term if he gets reelected? I'm laughing because I genuinely, the absurdity of this. He's running for a position that is a 4-year position, yet we don't even know if he plans on, So they have to ask this question. This is Jean-Pierre's answer.
Is Lesbian Visibility Week, and as
oh, that's the wrong one. Here we go. We're going to get to that in a minute. Here she is addressing the issue of whether he'll even serve a full second term.
Does the president plan to serve all 8 years?
I'm just not going to get ahead of the president. That's something for him to decide. I'm just not going to get ahead of it. And there's a 2024 campaign. Anything related to that, I would refer you to that.
All right. Now, for an administration who has no trouble lying, the answer is yes. This is the other part of it that's just amazing to me. They lie all the time about everything. They can't lie about this. Why would you not just say yes to that question? Well, of course he plans on, if he runs for re-election, of course he plans on serving out the entire 4 years. If this were an honest, transparent world in which we were all just fully, listen, let's just say what we think. Let's ask the questions that are in our mind. That would be the follow-up question. Why aren't you just saying yes? We all know that that's the correct answer here. You're supposed to say yes. You all have no... You're not tethered to the truth, so that's not a reason to be honest here and be, well, we're not really going to answer that question, or to evade the truth. There's no, you have no a reason to worry about that. Why don't you just say yes? He is applying for a 4-year job, and he won't even commit to the full 4 years. But here's the real serious question. If he is not going to commit to the full 4 years in which he is running for, how many years does he plan on? And what is going to be the determining factor? Does he have a goal of 2 years if he's reelected? Is it one day and he'll immediately step aside? What is the triggering mechanism if it's not some date on the calendar? What is the triggering mechanism that will result in his decision, or decision of the people around him, to have him step down? Those aren't just reasonable questions. They are required questions from a campaign and an administration that is fully acknowledging that they are not willing to answer whether he'll even serve a full second term sure to get elected. Here's Jason Rima. First Alert forecast sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. There's a slight chance of rain today, high of 67. Rain likely tonight, 50 for a low. Showers and storms, 59 tomorrow, and partly sunny Friday with a high of 67. Sarah Myers.
Well,
What, were you not prepared?
I was not, but it's okay. I was too busy listening to the hot tub rental.
Hot tub!
You better get down to the Branson
Get out of there!
Convention Center. I think that's where it
The
was.
boss is out of town!
Prices are low.
Crazy Ray is slashing prices, just like you can slash your stress by buying a hot tub.
That's right. Okay. Well, Ava's the car rental company.
You should get a hot tub. You out
We have the
where you
perfect
are?
place
Yeah.
for it. Yeah, but the upkeep and the maintenance.
You know, it's not as difficult, I don't think. You should talk to Dr. Lilly. I think he's got a nice
I
hot
don't
tub.
know. I got so much stuff that I have
Yeah,
to
you
take
do.
care of.
You'd-
That'd be
you'd-
another thing.
You find chickens in it, and
I know. Be like, what are y'all doing?
you
They're
need
like
a pig.
partying.
You need a pig. By the way, why don't you have a pig?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, I honestly don't know. The husband, he wants sheep, so that'll probably be the next thing.
Oh yeah, that would be cool.
Yeah, so we're adding to the farm, always. Okay, well, Avis, the car rental company, they have a new program called the Long-Term Rental Program. Now, this program is great for those who drive a lot, for those who are looking to maybe buy a new vehicle here soon, or for those who lease their vehicles. Now, the Long-Term Rental Program, it gives you more leeway than leasing does, and if you're looking to buy a new vehicle, using the Long-Term Rental Program allows you the opportunity to really get a feel of a vehicle that you're thinking about purchasing. Now, if this program would have been around when I was purchasing my vehicle, I probably wouldn't have bought the vehicle that I did. And there's nothing wrong with the vehicle that I'm in now, but the test drive that I did was not enough. It wasn't long enough for me, and there are things that I really hate about my car that I simply can't change, like the lack of storage in it. So the long-term rental program with Avis is kind of like the ultimate test drive. And the best part about it is if you decide that the vehicle that you're driving is not for you after a couple of months, you can simply just switch it out. Now, if you're interested in learning more about the long-term rental program, give Lauren a call today, or just swing by the Avis store off West Sunshine. And of course, you can find all of their contact information under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
I have some audio. I think it's a little muddy, though. You'll still be able to hear it. It's just not very good quality. I don't know. I must have saved it weird or something. Yesterday, Corinne Jean-Pierre, I don't know if you know this. I guess, is it month or yesterday was Lesbian Visibility Day? So, I don't know. To me, that sounds like you should get online and just image search lesbians. Is that not right? It's Lesbian Visibility Day, so are you not supposed to look at lesbians? That's what it sounds like to me. And if HR checks my search engine or my, results of history, that's what's going. I'm just saying that's what's going on. It's Lesbian Visibility Day. So yesterday was the day, I guess, according to Corinne Jean-Pierre. And if you don't know it, she refers to herself as a queer. I don't really know the difference, honestly. I don't know that I care. But this is in the White House press. Now, we've got a lot of things going on in this country right now, including more Americans that have been abandoned, this time in Sudan. This is just, we'll cover it later. We're not even trying to rescue the Americans in Sudan. And it is believed it's because the administration recognized what a debacle Afghanistan was, despite their claims it was a success. So they're just not even going to try. What a great administration we have. Despite all that going on, Corinne Jean-Pierre had the following to say during the White House press briefing.
This week is Lesbian Visibility Week, and as the first openly queer person to hold the position of press secretary for the President of the United States, I see every day how important visibility and representation are. Today, I'm honored to welcome the cast of The L Word and Generation Q, two Showtime series that chronicle the friendship, the love, the challenges, and the triumphs of strong, funny, and resilient queer women. Up here with me are the amazing, talented actresses who play those very roles. Jennifer Beals, Leisha Haley, and Catherine Menig, and the show's co-creator, writer, and executive producer, Eileen Shakin.
So I was talking yesterday about how a lot of these people, they use their labels to be center of attention. They just desperately need attention. I don't know that you can get a more stark example of that. As the first queer woman to ever be in this position, look at me, everyone. Oh, so she gets the cast of the show The L Word up there with her, along with the creator. I don't know about the creator or co-creator, but Jennifer Beals isn't even a lesbian, which I think is hilarious because there's this whole controversy. There are many in the LGBTQ plus community that think that it's abhorrent that a straight person would play a gay person, and here she has a straight person up there who plays a gay. Now the couple of the other actresses, they are lesbians, but Jennifer Beals is not. So she goes on for like 4 minutes, and listening to her ramble through LGBTQ plus, LGBTQ plus, LGBTQS plus, or whatever. And she's just going on and on and on about how important she is and so forth. And at the end, I kid you not, I guess she expected applause. And it was dead silence. And this was her reaction.
This week is Lesbian Visibility Week, and as the
all right, this was her reaction to the dead silence from the press corps after she gave her little spiel.
All right, thanks everybody. This is like the quietest I've heard you guys. Okay, now let's continue. I have a couple things at the top, and then we'll.
It was so uncomfortable. Total silence. I think they didn't know what they were supposed to do. They just like, okay, that was awkward. In the middle of having this you're answering questions we got a lot of things going on in the world. You got war-torn countries. We got fentanyl deaths left and right in this country. We got still an economy in which the average person's quality of life continues to diminish. You got open borders and everything. She's like, by the way, everyone, I have a bunch of actresses here because I'm the first queer. It's like, what are we doing? It's just embarrassing. It should be embarrassing. And the fact that entire press corps sat there uncomfortably silent when she was done, and she recognized it and was like, oh, you guys never heard you so quiet before. I think that illustrates everyone was uncomfortable. the White House had announced, I think yesterday or the day before, they're like, hey, yeah, guess what? The guy that was responsible for coordinating that attack, as we so successfully were airlifting people out of Afghanistan that killed American soldiers and all those Afghan citizens, yeah, he's dead. Yeah, Operation killed him. And then we're like, oh, okay. And then it's like, well, we didn't actually do it. It wasn't us. What is going on right now in Afghanistan is what generally occurs in countries in which there is a total and complete vacuum created, and that was created by the withdrawal, the Biden withdrawal. And so you have the Taliban that obviously they feel like, hey, we're the ones in control. But you also have ISIS, and so there's some fighting, like the Crips and the Bloods going on right now, and so in this fighting, the guy that we believe, and again, our intelligence has been so horrific, particularly when it comes to Afghanistan. Who knows whether this is true or not? Our intelligence saying the guy who coordinated or ordered that terrorist attack was killed in fighting by the Taliban. Now, the position the White House is taking on this is that, see, it just goes to show we don't need to be there. I'm not really sure that's what that means. No. They're almost portraying it as well, this was our plan all along, and the government there, everything's going just swimmingly. See, this terrorist guy, he's dead. The good guys won. No, other bad guys won. This is not a good place, not a good situation. This is not a victory. It's like, listen, you're trying too hard. No one believes that any of this was planned, the way that it all played out, and no one believes that this is actually a good thing. Now, at the same time, and this is what's horrific, and I want to share with you, that this deal in Sudan and the war that's raging there, and it has gotten to the point where it has been recognized it is extremely dangerous for Americans to be there. And we have abandoned estimates of around 16,000 Americans in Sudan. There's two components to this that are bothersome, and one of them is the reason why, but also the reaction from the American people on this, which is pretty much non-existent. And a lot of that, frankly, is because the media sets the tone for American reaction so often. If the media presents something as no big deal, nothing to see here, then many people, that's what they feel. Because they take their cues from the reaction from the media. But if the media is like, this is, breaking news, and oh my gosh, and the historical context here, and what does this mean, then that people feed off of that. And because the media is essentially covering up the abandonment of around 16,000 Americans that we've pretty much said, you're on your own, good luck, has led to many Americans not even realizing that this is going on as we speak. Let's do traffic. More ahead. I'm Nick Reed. Warner Brothers has announced officially Beetlejuice 2 is underway. No word as to whether or not Michael Keaton's going to be part of it, though he has expressed interest in the past. So it is expected to be so.
I wonder if Lori Lightfoot's going to be in it.
yeah. She's going to vie for that role. Gina Davis, Winona Ryder. There are a lot of notable people in it that you wonder. Alec Baldwin. You think about the cast of the original Beetlejuice, and it was filled with big-name people. I think Michael Keaton certainly as Beetlejuice needs to be in it. I think you could have a whole nother storyline with a whole different family, and I don't think you really necessarily need the other characters. But anyway, that's very important news. I thought I'd share with you. I've always liked Beetlejuice.
Do they have a release date for it?
I don't. So this movie web piece that posted yesterday said it's announced by Warner Brothers that the long gestating sequel is in development, though this follows months of rumors that the sequel was finally getting on track. Per Screen Rant, Warner Brothers made the announcement during the studio's panel at Comic-Con, though not much else was announced beyond the confirmation that the sequel is in development. So that's pretty much it.
Oh, well, something to look forward to.
There's a new, I don't know if I mentioned this, but we went to see, I think it was when we went to see Ant-Man, and there was a trailer for the Flash movie, and Michael Keaton was in that as Batman, which was totally awesome. Oh. Just a real brief, because my wife and I both were like, oh my gosh, Michael Keaton.
Is that just your response every time?
Well, when we see him as Batman, yes. Most certainly. First alert forecast, a slight chance of rain today, high of 67, rain tonight, 50, storms and showers tomorrow, 59, 67, and partly sunny on Friday. Clutter, I'm just going to tell you, garage experts, if you have an issue with clutter, there have been numerous studies that when it comes to clutter, it also clutters your mind, it clutters your emotions, that having things in a neat, orderly fashion doesn't mean you have to be a Nazi about it, some sort of absolute neat freak, but there is a direct connection between just emotional well-being, feeling kind of and depressed, and having a lot of clutter. I know I learned a long time ago when we would go on the Great Escapes that we've gotten to where we really straighten everything up, clean, as if we're having company before we leave. And when we get back home, it's just, I don't know, it's just such an emotional relief to not be like, oh my gosh, look at this house sort of situation. And one of the things about Garage Experts, aside from the tremendous benefits of the epoxy flooring, is the customized storage. And, again, no longer do I put off hanging that picture or doing some other work in the house because I'm thinking, oh, I don't know where that particular tool is. I don't know where the stud finder is, and I'm digging through boxes. I know just where they are. And that's because the customized storage was designed based off my usage. Garage Experts, they do absolutely tremendous work and can turn your garage into a point of pride in your home, just as they have mine. They are under Nick's endorsements at ksgf.com. So I love the headline of this story. Biden administration applauds Taliban strike on ISIS while abandoning U.S. citizens in Sudan. Number one, the first part of this, applauding the Taliban strike as if this was something that, like, the Taliban's got everything in order. They've turned it out to be the good guys, and, we don't like terrorism, so we're going to kill terrorists. These are warring factions fighting over who's going to control all of the money and all of the military equipment and the military bases that we decided to abandon. So, as you can imagine, this is like people fighting in the streets when an armored truck crashes and bags of money fall out into the street. That's what's happening there. So this isn't some sort of noble attempt by the Taliban to get the good graces of the international community and become recognized as some sort of stable humanitarian government that is trying to eliminate terrorism from the country. They just don't want those terrorists to take over their terrorist duties. The part of this that is just, to me, it is heartbreaking how far we have fallen as a nation. there is this evacuation, and we once again portrayed this great success. We evacuated all these people from the embassy in Sudan. And the Biden administration portrayed it as, yep, we got in and got them out. Bam. I mean, this was fantastic. We did great. What wasn't mentioned is the roughly 16,000 private American citizens stuck in the country. And the Biden administration has told them, good luck. You're on your own. The U.S. Embassy in Khartoum said that it is, quote, not currently safe to undertake a U.S. government-coordinated evacuation of private U.S. citizens. Well, of course it's not safe. That's why you're getting the folks that worked in the embassy the hell out of there. Is that how it works now? If American citizens are in danger, we don't rescue them. That's when you need rescuing. I mean, think of the absurdity of this statement. We aren't going to rescue the people in danger because it's dangerous. It's not safe. Yeah, it's not safe. If it were, there would not be 16,000 American citizens desperately hiding and trying to escape the country and wondering why their country abandoned them. Former CIA Open Source Center Director George Beebe said that such a decision to abandon U.S. citizens in a crisis zone represented a, quote, unusual situation, noting that such evacuations have been fairly common, but this is a shift. This is part of what is a sad, heartbreaking reflection of our character as a country now, that we have taken to just abandoning him, not even trying. Not even trying. Something that once upon a time was commonplace. We have Americans that, through no fault of their own, they were in an area of the world that, may not have been the most stable, but we have an embassy there. I mean, we have an embassy there. Americans have been there for years and so forth for a number of different reasons, many of which may be working, on behalf of organizations that are contracted through the United States and otherwise. And we do what we can to get them out of there. We try and rescue them. And we've gotten to the point now, after Afghanistan, the Biden administration is saying, just screw them. We're not even going to try. It's not safe. It's not safe. Can you imagine if firefighters operated that way? If the Coast Guard operated that way? If any search and rescue, here we got somebody that's, a flooding situation, and they're on the top of their car out in the middle of a rising stream, and law enforcement shows up and rescue shows up, that looks pretty dangerous. No, sorry, it's not safe. No kidding, it's not safe. Beebe went on to say that the fact that we're not doing that in Sudan, that is rescuing Americans, that is a departure from the norm. And I suspect it has a lot to do with what happened in Afghanistan. That bungled evacuation effort is something that I don't think the Biden administration wants to see repeated, and is quite concerned there might be that kind of optic in Sudan. So because in the rollout of his re-election announcement, the Biden administration doesn't want to look bad. 16,000 Americans are left on their own. Is there no depth too low for these people? And you still have, at any given time, people polled in this country, 40, 46% that say, I like the way that I want to keep this guy in the White House. I mean, I get why some people don't like Trump. But this? And what I find to be so worrisome is once upon a time, now this was before my time, before it's the Iran, the embassy hostage situation. There are documentaries still made about that. In fact, many people believe that the reason that Ronald Reagan beat Jimmy Carter was because of that. You had a number of Americans, certainly not 16,000, I think a few dozen, I don't know the exact number, that had been stuck in Iran. There was this upheaval in Iran, and they could not get out. They were being held hostage in the embassy by a bunch of students. And it was a daily watch. Americans were on edge. What are we going to do? How do we get them out of there? And we've gotten to the point where now the president of the United States just says, we're not going to bother with it. It's not safe. 16,000 Americans. No hashtags. Even the meaningless things, like changing a profile pic. And much of this is the tone has been set by the media that this is no big deal. The media sets the tone for much of this stuff. You know that. They act, look, for example, January 6th versus the insurrection in Tennessee or attempted insurrection in Montana. Most people don't even know about those things, or those individuals are hailed as heroes. I mean, you have 3 lawmakers in Tennessee openly calling for violence against other lawmakers, saying no action, no peace, and they get praised at the White House. And many people feel like, well, those are great. Oh, I really like that. Those individuals are really standing up for what they believe in, because the media sets the tone. The media frames the narrative. And that we, supposedly, the most powerful country in the world, most compassionate country in the world, once upon a time, no man left behind sort of thing, that attitude, that mentality, and though these are American citizens, we're not talking about military individuals, we've just changed. And that the media would sweep this aside. The first real pronounced example of this was Benghazi. And I have thought on numerous occasions what that moment was like when our Americans realized they had been abandoned, because that moment came where they knew that that if those terrorists breached those walls, they made their way in, that they were going to see a horrific end. They're thinking about their families, their wives, their husbands, their children, wondering what painful form of death they were going to experience all the time, at some point thinking at any minute, by orders of the President of the United States, our rescuers are going to come. And at some point, they had to realize we've been abandoned. And it was for political purposes. Much like this situation with Sudan, Obama was in the middle of a re-election. As Biden has announced his re-election, and they had been attempting to claim that they had the al-Qaeda thing licked, there wasn't a terrorism problem, and so they had to pretend like none of this was a big deal, nothing was happening, for political purposes. Abandoned Americans. And we've seen it with and we're doing it to the tune of tens of thousands at this point. What a stand-up guy Joe Biden is. We have willfully abandoned 16,000 American citizens in war-torn Sudan. How many of them will be slaughtered? We don't know. How many of them will be held hostage and tortured in order to extract money out of the United States? Who knows? We don't know. The Biden administration has said the reason for abandoning our American citizens in Sudan is because it's not safe to try to get them out. No kidding. A couple text messages in on that issue on the American Transmissions Talk and Text line. Didn't a Parkland police officer get ridiculed for the same reason? It was unsafe to go in. Yeah, that's true. Well, Uvalde, we would learn, there were similar reasons because it was too unsafe because the Uvalde killer had a gun. Yeah. That's right. To also illustrate the point, someone else texted in, the Nashville police could save him. It's a damn shame. And then I sit and I listen to people chant 4 more years at a Biden event. A guy who, by the way, won't even say he'll serve the whole 4 years. I get, what do you... They need to change their chant from 4 more years to, 4 more years maybe, 1 to 4 years. I don't know. They won't say how long Biden plans on serving should he get reelected. God almighty. Fauci once again is spinning his yarn about how the COVID lab outbreak isn't a lab leak. So everyone finally is acknowledging that the Fauci disinformation campaign that it wasn't a lab leak was a disinformation campaign and that it was a lab leak. He has adopted this new position that it's really sad, and it is in the New York Times. And I say a new position. He has trotted this out before. In fact, I played audio of him a few weeks ago making this claim, and that is that, well, it may have leaked from a lab, but not because that's where it originated. His theory, without any evidence whatsoever, is that an elusive animal somehow transmitted COVID for the very first time ever to a human. That human went into the lab and spread it around, and then that's how it came back out of the lab. It is the sort of embarrassing excuse that you hear an 8 or 9-year-old make. They'll use this really twisted logic that you're like, okay, I think we both know that's not realistic. That's what he has been reduced to. Even on the it's laughable. So, and what gain of function, simply put, means is the function of, you have a virus that gains the function of transmitting from an animal to a person. COVID does not do that. But this lab is where they take viruses and they manipulate them so that they will do that. Now, according, though, to Fauci, that's not how COVID got into the lab. No. It wasn't because of the gain of function research that's going on. It's because it magically, for the first time ever, and it's only happened once, and we don't know where the animal came from, can't find it, somehow magically jumped from animal to person. That person just happened to go into the one place where gain of function research was done, coincidentally. Passed it around, and then it got back out. That's how Fauci is pathetic. He's a pathetic embarrassment. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Trump threatening to skip the Republican primary debates. Now, the Biden campaign has already pretty much said, well, he's not going to debate any of his candidates. I don't want to say I'm torn on this. I have slightly conflicting thoughts because on one hand, when it comes to content, substance, these debates are largely irrelevant. This ask a question, you have 60 seconds to answer, and then you have 30 seconds, and then we'll give you a rebuttal. And then I mean, it's like that. Really? Can you really get any true substance out of that? Can you imagine if marriage counselor didn't work that way? Right? You get 60 seconds. Now you get a 30-second rebuttal. You would get nowhere. But on the other hand, some of these candidates, it is the lesser-known candidates, it is the only opportunity they have for the American people to get a sampling of them. We'll talk about this more coming up. Secretary of State Ashcroft will be joining us a little after 8:30. He will also be at the Christian County Republican Central Committee Lincoln Days this Saturday, the Ozarks Event Center. I believe tickets are still available. $50, a nice dinner. You get to meet with and chat with a number of people. Jay Ashcroft, Attorney General Bailey, Congressman Eric Burleson, Mike Moon. You got Darren Chappell, Bob Titus, Jamie Gregg, Brad Hudson, a number of others. And Congressman Burleson has purchased a table for some KSGF listeners, and there's a couple of different ways we're going to do this. We're going to do 5 pair. So 5 people will win and get to bring with them a guest. I'm going to MC the event, by the way, or at least the part of the event. So I too will be there. And these passes get you the dinner. You'll sit at the table with the other KSGF listeners. You can text the word Lincoln, as in Lincoln Days or Abraham Lincoln, to the American Transmissions talk and text line 447-KSGF. That will get you registered, and they have until 8:30 to do that. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, and then at some point this hour, we will announce a location in the listening area, and Houston, who produces the show from in studio on Fridays for us, he will be out. He's going to be in the KSGF vehicle, right?
Yep.
So it's identifiable, and he will have a pair of tickets, which they're sort of lanyard tickets, on him, and the first person that makes it to him will get those, and so that'll be a seat at that event coming up Saturday. And it's the Christian County Lincoln Days. You don't have to be a Christian County resident or voter, but it is the Christian County Lincoln Days. So those of you who are from Christian County, this may be a little more significant to you than people who live outside of Christian County. Anything else I need to mention on that?
No, I think you got it all.
Okay, let's jump over to Jason Rima with the latest news. First alert forecast, slight chance of rain today, high of 67. Rain likely tonight, 54 low. Showers and storms, 59 tomorrow. Partly sunny Friday with a high of 67. Trump threatens to skip Republican primary debates. Former President Donald Trump threatened in a Tuesday Truth Social post to skip Republican presidential primary debates, saying, quote, "I see that everybody's talking about the Republican debates, but nobody got my approval or the approval of the Trump campaign before announcing them. When you're leading by seemingly insurmountable numbers and you have hostile networks with angry Trump and MAGA-hating anchors asking the questions, why subject yourself to being libeled and abused?" He said also the second debate is being held at the Reagan Library, the chairman of which is amazingly Fred Ryan, publisher of the Washington Post. No. Now, okay, there's two different levels to this, or layers to this. Now, number one, just out of the gate, that I don't like this. I don't like it any more than Biden saying he's not going to debate. I don't like the front runner not participating. Now, that being said, actually, while I don't like it, I don't think it is egregious as long as the debates are still held. Now, that's where you get the real problem. And I don't care how irrelevant the other candidates may be. We've seen this occur before, not on a presidential level, but on oftentimes statewide races, where you have the clear front runner, often the incumbent, and there's going to be a debate that occurs, and then one or more of the front runners say, we're not going to do it, and so the media outlet thinks, well, I mean, if the people who actually have a chance to win aren't going to participate, there's no point in having the debate. That allows, I don't want to say a rigging, but it allows front runners to diminish the ability of those who aren't front runners to get some face time with voters. And I don't like that. But if whomever is putting on the debate says, hey, that's fine, you don't want to be in it, it's fine, but we're still going to do it, okay. I'm okay with that. Now, the other part of this, however, is the fact that the Republican National Committee Chairman, Ronna McDaniel, she announced back in February, and we talked about this at the time, that the RNC was likely to require all debate participants to agree to support the GOP's eventual presidential nominee. Now, I don't agree with that, and by the way, I think it's just stupid. What purpose does that possibly serve? What purpose? Well, because we need unity. Oh, you think that's going to do it? In fact, all that does. All right, how can that play out a couple of scenarios? One scenario is everyone's like, oh, yeah, okay, that's fine. Well, those people that have no problem making that pledge, we're going to do it anyway. But if you have somebody like Trump, and by the way, my position is you should not make that sort of guarantee, although in all likelihood it makes sense and you're going to do it, and arguably you should support whomever the nominee is. But I just don't believe in forcing people to make commitments that you will support somebody else no matter what happens. I just don't. If your goal is to create unity, do you really think that's going to happen? What do you think is going to happen if you have someone like, this is clearly aimed at Trump, and this idea that, we'll just make Trump agree to support whomever the candidate is, because if you recall, last time around, Trump was the one guy that on the stage filled with individuals, when asked who will promise to support whomever the nominee is, Trump was the one guy that didn't raise his hand. And they want to evidently avoid that because they don't like the way that it looks. Well, how do you think it's going to look if you have this battle that plays out where Trump is going to refuse to show up I shouldn't say that, where you won't allow Trump to debate because he won't make that agreement? You think that's going to look great for unity? It's just so dumb. Just let it alone. Who cares? Don't even ask the question. Why even ask that question? For a party that, this is the irony of it, and these are self-inflicted wounds. The Republican Party is always so worried about looking as if they're not unified. So they create these scenarios which highlight the fact that they aren't unified. Democrats don't care about that stuff. You don't ever hear them wringing their hands about, we criticize each other in the prime. I mean, they don't care. Look at the guy who's president of the United States right now. His vice president openly called him a racist during the debates. Called him a racist. Jill Biden hates her because of that. Was mad that he was going to make her vice president because she trashed him that way on the stage. Do you think they care? They don't care. Of course, they know that, that they're foot soldiers that all get in line, and I know they have the media on their side, so there are different components to this. But the point is, and the irony is, and it is truly ironic, in an attempt to make it look like everybody's getting along and, oh no, everything's absolutely fine and everyone's going to support the nominee, they're going to draw attention to the fact that that may not be the case. So congratulations. Instead of making things better, you make things worse. I hope that Trump does debate. It just seems like the right thing to do. I understand the instinct of what's the point? I don't have anything to gain. I only have things to lose. And that's true. Trump support is Trump support. And that's not to say he can't gain a little extra support, but he has more to lose than he has to gain. So I understand it from that point, but I just don't like it. But ultimately, I can live with it as long as the RNC, and I suspect that they will, says we're going to hold the debates anyhow. And incidentally, which is the opposite approach that the Democrats are taking, and that is if Biden doesn't want it, we aren't going to do it. Springfield's Talk 104.1, I'm Nick Reed. The Democrats, it has become very clear, they are so unapologetic about trying to rig their selection process for their nominee, as there are two other candidates, JFK Jr. and Marianne Williamson. And they already made South Carolina the first contest as opposed to the third because that's where Biden is the strongest. And so they want to eliminate, they're rigging it. They're totally rigging it. And by the way, the other two candidates are calling them out for rigging it. This is one of the reasons Tulsi Gabbard went real sour on the Democrats, is because she recognized that they rigged the primary against Bernie Sanders in favor of Hillary Clinton's. Democrats cheat. They cheat. They know they cheat. Do you know how you know Democrats know they cheat? Because when it comes to primaries, they cheat against each other. So they all know they're cheaters. They're immoral, dishonest cheaters. And they're doing it so openly now. And you've got the alteration of the contest lineup so that Biden will win the first one really big. And also, apparently, will refuse to debate the other two candidates. Now, if the media were totally and completely honest, and if the media weren't willing participants in rigging the Democrat selection process, they will have debates anyway. If the DNC is also wanting to be fair and not being obvious about rigging the contest, they should say, we're going to have debates. Biden, of course, is welcome as one of the individuals that's vying for the nomination because he has to he's got to get the nomination. He doesn't automatically get it because he's a sitting president. His first term is over. He's done as president. So whomever's going to run for the next time around, it's all a start over. He has to get the nomination just like anyone else has to get the nomination in order to run for president. And when you have a guy that even a majority of Democrats don't want to run for president, and then there are two other options, but you are not going to give them a platform, you're going to let that guy dictate whether or not there are debates, is wrong. I don't know why it is that here I'm like arguing on behalf of what's right for the Democrat voters when many of them won't even care. I mean, why do I care more about their system being rigged, screwing over their voters, than they do? Now, I'm sure RFK supporters, those that already support RFK and those who already support Marianne Williamson, they care. But the rest of the Democrats seemingly are just fine. Rig it, whatever. And I suppose I don't know, when that's the life you live, when that's the way you view things, I suppose you just get accustomed to it and you shrug your shoulder and figure the chips may fall as they may. But it's not right to allow the front runner to dictate whether or not there are debates. And one of the reasons that you have low poll numbers for those individuals is because they do not have the same face time. They don't have the same name recognition. They don't have that same interaction or exposure to voters that the front runner does, in this case, Joe Biden. And that's one of the only opportunities they have to do that and to throw things at Biden. And I just, they rigged the game. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Christian County Lincoln Day is coming up. Congressman Burleson, one of a number of folks who will be in attendance, he has also purchased a table for KSGF listeners. It seats 10. Dinners involved. And you can, of course, buy tickets. They're $50 if you don't win or you want to attend. And we are in a couple of ways giving these away over the next couple of days. One, you have just like a minute left if you want to text in the word Lincoln to 447-KSGF. Also, Houston, our Friday producer, is out there at Retro Metro. He's at Retro Metro, which is on Cox and Republic Road, across from Price Cutter. He is in the KSGF vehicle. The first person that gets to him, you will get a pair. So you'll get 2 seats at Congressman Burleson's table. I say it's his table. I don't believe he will be sitting there, but it's a table that he has purchased. He'll be there, but I think he's going to be at a separate table. But so whomever makes it there first and gets to Houston at Retro Metro will get the first pair of passes for Christian County Lincoln Days. Sarah Myers.
Thank you. Well, over the weekend, I had a little shindig at my house, and a lot of people...
I was there.
You were, and you
I'm
were...
VIP.
You were, and you were one of the people who has never been out to my house before.
Mm-hmm.
There was quite a few because we've been doing tons of home renovations and repairs, and that's thanks to my friends over at Beatles Property Maintenance. Now, whenever I was showing people my house, I was like, oh, yes, Beatles has done this, and they've done that, and they're like, wow, your house...
It's true, she did.
I did. I did the whole endorsement while I was in my kitchen, didn't I?
Yes. It's true.
But yeah, I was showing them everything that Beatles has done, and we had a lot of people say, wow, your house looks really great. And I said, I know, and actually I have Beatles coming out to do even more. I've kind of got that renovation or repair bug. Now that I've done one thing, I'm like, oh, well, we need new lights, we need an exhaust fan, we need this and that. So I'm going to keep Bruce and the Beatles property maintenance team pretty busy. Now, if you are out there and you have a home repair or maintenance, whether it's big or small, maybe you have a crawl space repair, maybe you need a vapor barrier, maybe you've noticed some mold, or maybe you're like me and you have just kind of a honey-do list of items that need to be done and you just don't have time to do it, Beatles Property Maintenance is the company that you can trust. Now, you can find all of the contact information for Bruce and the Beatles Property Maintenance team under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
We're going to talk with Secretary of State Ashcroft coming up here in just a couple of moments. I did want to just quickly hit you with this story. Michigan School District faces lawsuit after forcing students to remove Let's Go Brandon sweatshirts. Schools are generally run by left-wing people that are full of crap. Not always, but generally. And you see this every time there is an issue that has political context come up. So, for example, if students want to wear some sort of shirt that is against the Second Amendment or a shirt that is against the pro-life message or even walk out, well, that's part of the process. I mean, what can be better than exercising your right to have your voice heard? That's part of the learning experience. That's what they always say. And they say it's not about the issue. No. It has nothing to do with the issue. Man, until that issue is right-wing. And then all of a sudden, well, you can't wear that sweatshirt here because that's political. See, their issues are never political. No. Being anti-Second Amendment, calling for politicians to enact gun control laws isn't political. No. That's not it at all. Calling for politicians to pass laws protecting abortion. No, that's not political. That's not political. Being pro-life is, of course. See, it's very political. It's very triggering. Being pro-Second Amendment, that's not only political, but that's scary. It's very scary, and it's triggering to people. And you see it constantly. And this is just another example of that hypocrisy on display. We have been throughout the week, well, I think last week, in fact, started promoting the upcoming Christian County Lincoln Days. And, of course, Congressman Burleson buying a table for KSGF listeners. And over the next couple of days, we'll have 5 KSGF winners get a pair. And we have given away one via text. I'm guessing, did anybody find Houston? Do we know? Do we hear from him?
Huey
Okay.
just texted us, so he is leaving right now. So sorry, guys.
All right, but tomorrow we'll be doing it again. Are we doing the same thing tomorrow? Another text and another envelope
we're not
here?
doing another text.
Okay.
The text is just today. Actually, I was about to text the winner, so if you're the winner, you'll get a text here soon.
So listen tomorrow, and we'll announce how we're going to be giving those away. There'll be a number of folks that are there, including Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft, who happens to be with us now. So I'm going to MC this, sir, so I'll get a chance to see you Saturday.
Well, wonderful. It'll be great to see you. It's always good to talk to you. I appreciate the hard work you're doing to protect Missourians and increase their potential to be the best they can be.
Well, I'm going to put that on my resume. That sounds nice. There are a number of things that go on in Missouri that people just, obviously, they're not aware of. They have their daily lives, and Jeff City doesn't get quite the attention, of course, that Washington, D.C. does. But there are some things that people, it really does pique their interest, though it's difficult for them to follow. And I know one of the areas, for obvious reasons, that people have concerns, it is regarding the ability of foreign countries, largely with a focus on China, buying up land. And that's something that has been talked about in the past in Missouri. And I know that there has been, I don't know if it's one or a number of versions of legislation that is looking to deal with this. What can you tell us about that?
I've been working really hard with Representative Hafner. We got a bill out of the House and over to the Senate that would prohibit China, Russia, North Korea, countries like that from owning any land in the state of Missouri. It wouldn't just apply to agriculture. We'd say, look, you're our enemy. You shouldn't buy any land.
Right.
And then the Senate amended that, which sometimes is good, sometimes is bad. And they said, look, they proclaimed that they had passed a bill that said no alien, foreign business, or foreign government shall acquire by grant, purchase, devise, or descent, or otherwise any agricultural land in the state. And you're like, well, that sounds really good. But they didn't tell you what the first part of that sentence was that said, except as provided in sections 442, 586, and 442, 591. And when you go look at 442, 591, they actually amended the bill to say, it didn't used to say foreign government. They added in the phrase or foreign government. And what it says is the restrictions set forth that I just read to you shall not apply to agricultural land or any interest therein acquired by an alien, foreign business, or foreign government for immediate or potential use in non-farming purposes. So we had a bill that was designed to say that China, North Korea, Russia, countries like that can't buy any land in our state. And the Senate amended it to say, well, you can buy any land you want as long as you're potentially not going to use it for non-farming purposes. And I don't think that's what the people of the state want. I think the people of the state want us to take up a strong stand against our enemy, and China is our enemy, and say, no, you're not allowed to buy any land in the state. I'm fine with the Chinese people, but the Chinese communist government has no reason, should have no ability to buy or build on our land.
So if I'm understanding it in layman's terms, it switched from the original intent, which was to prevent these foreign governments, the bad players, of buying up Missouri land, farmland, to say, well, you can if you pinky swear that you don't plan on using it for agriculture. Is that right?
Yeah. It's a bait and switch. They wanted to tell the people they had done something and then do the exact opposite. And I know it sounds really stupid to say this, but I wish we could trust elected officials.
I know.
And we need to elect elected officials that will do what we the people want. We're supposed to be in charge. And the dishonesty is just horrific.
Has it passed the Senate with that version, or is this still being discussed?
It passed the Senate with this version. It is now back to the House. The House passed a different version than the Senate. So now either the House will take up and approve the Senate changes, they'll kill the bill, or they'll try to go to committee or conference to make it what it was supposed to be. And I'm just being active because I want the people of the state to call their legislators and say China should not be allowed to buy any land in Missouri. Russia should not be able to buy any land in Missouri. We need to close these loopholes before we pass this bill.
Have they given their rationale for doing so? Because usually whenever funny stuff like that goes on, they come up with some excuse. They're like, well, we did it because of this. Are they even bothering to do that?
No.
Okay.
If you go online, they will quote from the bill, but they will remove the first part of the sentence where it says, except as provided in sections 442.586 and 442.591, and then they will just highlight where it says,
That's all right.
no alien foreign business. They'll say, see, it says no.
Right.
But they never tell you that, well, no, wait a minute. At the beginning of that sentence, it said you have to read this other paragraph. And I can tell you right now, none of them are posting 442.591 where they amended the bill. Why would they amend the bill to add foreign governments into the loophole? Who in the Senate said we need to amend the law so that the foreign government of China can buy land?
Well, as long as they promise, they won't do anything. That's the thing that kills me.
I mean,
oh boy.
Do you realize that under this bill, the state of Missouri, or at least the Missouri Senate, has agreed to change the law so that it will be easier for China and their spy balloons because now they can just build them and launch them from Missouri.
Right, yeah, they don't even have to bother making it over the ocean. Right?
They don't have to export COVID to the United States. They can put the Wuhan lab in Missouri.
Brilliant. Do we have names of those that are behind this amendment? I'm sure they exist. I just don't know who these folks are.
Any Missourian that wants can go to senate.mo.gov and see the names.
No, I get it.
I
You don't want it to be
change.
about. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Look. We would all be better off. When I originally posted about this on social media, my post was not so-and-so amended this terribly. It was, hey, this bill got amended. We need to go to committee, conference, and fix it.
Right. Yeah, it's not about it's about the issue itself. Yeah, we'll fix it, and then we can focus on the problem, people here.
Well, go ahead.
No, I was going to shift gears here a bit. We talk with Secretary of State Ashcroft. I don't know why. One of my favorite subject matters it's the selection process of nominees, primaries, caucuses, and I think largely because most people have tremendous misunderstandings as to exactly how all that works, and some of it's because it's confusing, and some of it's I think because people are allowed to have a misunderstanding as to how it is that we pick our candidates, the presidential preference primary. And I don't really know much about what is going on with this, but it's my understanding that there's some interesting things going on with that selection process in Missouri as well. Is that correct?
It is. Last year in the elections bill, the Senate added in a part to get rid of the presidential preference primary. And I should back up a little bit further if I can. Previously in Missouri, we have had both a primary and a caucus.
Yes.
The people of the state could vote in the primary. It was in March, but that actually didn't decide who the delegates were that would actually vote for the nominees for president. That was actually done in the caucus. And for several years now, I have gone to the legislature and said, stop. Have one of them.
Right.
Either have a primary where the people's votes matter, or just go to a caucus. But it is disingenuous, it is morally wrong for us to say vote in this primary when we know that their vote doesn't matter. Pick one.
And people are like, well, wait a minute, though. Why then every time I vote, they say, oh, here's who won? Is it that the caucus is just going along with or happens to agree with the way that people vote, and so it works out that way?
Frequently, it doesn't work out that way. They'll say on election night who won, But frequently, by the time the caucus is picking delegates, the people that won our primary are no longer in it or have dropped out, or it really varies. I think with when Sam Torum was running, he may have won our election, but then we gave our delegates to someone else. The problem is this. People should know that if they're going to vote in an election for president, their votes actually pick the delegates in that primary. They don't. We're lying to the people. It's wrong. And I'm not against having a primary. I'm not against having a caucus. I just want to be honest with the people so that they know how to make the best decision.
And I believe
right now. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I believe Missouri in 96, and I'm pretty sure 2012 actually did just the caucus. And a number of states, we're familiar. We hear the term Iowa caucus, and then some. Are there many other states that do both like we do? No.
This started originally. We used to do caucuses all the time, and then when Congressman Dick Gephardt was running for the presidency, Missouri did a one-time change to have the primary.
Okay.
And then in 2000, there was the look at moving to a primary. And then we ran into some problems with the Republican National Committee, maybe also with the Democratic National Committee, and they said, you're going to lose delegates if you have a primary and it's that early. So then they went to both a primary and the caucus.
Okay.
And we should just do one of them.
Yeah.
Just be honest with
Right.
people.
Yeah. Anything else that people need to be aware of?
In about 2.5 weeks, they will be free from the scourge of the legislature, and they need to be watching everything they can.
Okay.
And if nothing passes, we may all be better off than if
Right.
the great ideas that they have pass.
Secretary of State Jay Ashcroft, it's always good to hear from you, and I look forward to seeing you in person Saturday at Christian County Lincoln Days.
Going to be great. Thank you very much.
All right, you bet. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Hey, everyone, it's Sarah Myers. Oh, and I should just remind everyone that we do have a Heroes Breakfast Friday at
Yes,
Scramblers.
we do.
So,
6 to 9.
yeah,
If you're a
6 to 9.
veteran, you get the breakfast special for
Yeah,
free.
chugga choo choo.
Yeah, more details on that at ksgf.com. Speaking of ksgf.com, if you click on the Sarah's Endorsements tab, you'll see everybody that I talk about. One of those names that you'll see is the Pyramid Roofing Company. Now, since spring is officially here, we've had a lot of rain, we've had a lot of severe weather, and maybe you have noticed it is time to call a roofing company. But there are hundreds of roofing companies out there. You're not exactly sure who to call, and that's why I want to recommend my friends over at the Pyramid Roofing Company. One of my favorite things about the Pyramid Roofing team is that they are upfront and honest. They don't sugarcoat things, but they're not also going to try to upsell you, and they're not going to be like, hey, you need a whole new roof whenever you need just a simple roof repair. But if you do need a roof repair or a whole new roof, they'll let you know, like, hey, it is time that we need to do this, but let's get it taken care of so you are safe from all of the severe weather and you have no worries as we move into even more rainy seasons. So if you are in a situation where you do need a whole new roof or just roof repair, highly recommend the Pyramid Roofing Company. You can find all of that contact information under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
A number of you had sent in text messages while I was speaking with Secretary of State Ashcroft, and I just, it was sort of a quick conversation with him, and I saw them during the break after he was already gone. But like I said, hey, it's a great reason to come to Christian County Lincoln Days. You can ask them those questions. One of the questions that was asked, and I can answer this, well, to some degree, why can't bills, legislature, just be one single purpose? and be clear to those with a high school education, nothing further. Well, what's interesting is the Missouri Constitution requires that they do just that. That legislation be about one subject matter, but they ignore it all the time. They constantly ignore it. And it's the same thing when it comes to votes to the people, and when people are going to vote on certain things. And the reason for that is, which it makes total sense. I think some people see it as nitpicking and it's not very efficient. But the reason for that is because if there's a piece of legislation and there is something within it that is really good and constitutional, but something that isn't, then I am forced to vote. And regardless how I vote, I'm voting against my beliefs, my desires, my will. Because if I vote against legislation because there's something wrong and unconstitutional in it, then I'm voting against something that's constitutional and good, and vice versa. If I want to vote for, I have to choose between the two. And so it's not supposed to be that way, but again, they just violate it all the time. I know that sucks, right? The abortion issue is one that I believe we are witnessing why it is that sadly many Republicans actually never wanted Roe v. Wade to be overturned because they have to deal with the, quote, fallout. And they have to deal with what they believe is a now more difficult pathway to winning elections, because Democrats and the media are very good at marketing this idea that in America, certain human beings should have the right to kill other human beings, even for convenience sakes. And so many Republicans, they try to find sort of this way to not take a hard position on it. I happen to believe that is where it's a state right issue comes up for a lot, not all. Then you have people like Nikki Haley that's saying that, well, there must be a national consensus. We must find something we can all agree upon. Listen, this is not something that you can find a consensus on, because we're talking about the fundamental belief as to whether or not you should be able to kill other people or not. I mean, that's what it boils down to. I understand, at least, I can comprehend people who are pro-abortion because they don't believe any of the science regarding it being a human being. They're ignorant in the ways of science, but being ignorant, you can see, well, okay, I can understand then why they have that position. I cannot comprehend people who say, oh, yes, that's a living creature, but I think we should come to some sort of consensus as to when you can kill the child, as to opposed to when you can't. I cannot comprehend that. And I know a lot of Republicans, they wring their hands over this, and boy, this is really, Republicans are going to lose elections over this. You know what? I do care, but that's not a hard choice for me. As a human being, let's see. We can actually stop killing people, innocent human beings, but you might lose an election. Okay. I mean, we're not talking about whether or not to cut taxes or raise taxes. We're not talking about more or less regulations. We're talking about the very fundamental foundation of life, and this idea as to whether or not you can, one group of people can just kill another group of people. And if, to me, choosing between winning versus saving lives, it's saving lives for me. But apparently for some in the, quote, pro-life community, it's not that easy of a decision. All right, everyone. I feel like it's been a really good show. Good job. Good job, all of you. Congratulations. Tomorrow we will have additional opportunities for you to win tickets to the Christian County Lincoln Days. I'll be emceeing. We'll have everyone from Congressman Burleson, Secretary of State Ashcroft, Attorney General Andrew Bailey, and many more will be there. Mike Moon. I could just keep going down the list, but it's going to be a nice dinner, nice time, and that will be this upcoming Saturday. And then Friday, we do have Heroes Breakfast at Scramblers. If you're a veteran, when we broadcast live this Friday, Air Services, Heating, Cooling, Plumbing, Electrical, Scramblers, Delta Roofing, and Serenity Honors buying you breakfast between 6 a and 9 a. Glenn Beck's next. I'm Nick Reed.